Jean-Francois Lisee is standing by, former Parti Québécois leader. I want to start, Jean-Francois, if we can, by talking about Pierre Poilievre. So he's in town. He's on his Tour de Québec. I don't know where that's going, but tonight it's in Mount Royal. We're going to find out who the Conservative candidate is going to be, who'll be running against the Liberal Anthony Housefather in that riding. So I asked the question early on. It's been brought up before. As I said, I don't know where he's planning to go, although I did hear a reference today to suggest, and I think it was Neil Drapkin, who served in Stephen Harper's government, very much, a conservative, suggesting that support for the Conservatives in the rural areas of Quebec has also gone up. Do you believe that to be the case?
Well, I'm told that he's going to spend a lot of time in Quebec during this summer, and it's the region of Canada that has been less conducive to his message so far. So it makes sense that he does that. A new poll today showed that the Bloc Québécois has consolidated its advance so much so, and if the Liberals really implode in Ontario, that the Bloc could become, again, for a second time, the loyal opposition of Her Majesty in Ottawa. But in any case, so the campaign that Mr. Poilievre has to make in Quebec has to be in the softer, old, conservative Union Nationale, ADQ, CAQ regions of the suburbs of Quebec City and inland and the northern and the southern side of Quebec City, the Beauce area, Chaudière-Appalaches, all the way to Catherine Mines, Plessisville, Victoriaville. Those are areas that are historically conservative with a small c. So the best use of his time would be to draw support there.
So what should his message be out there to voters, the ones you're describing as, soft C conservatives? What's he selling? What should he be selling them?
Well, it's clear that his problem is not Trudeau. People who don't like Trudeau have already decided to vote Bloc. So he has to find some way to peel these people off the Bloc Québécois. The Conservatives have had this problem for a number of political cycles, and they are always trying to use the card, which is a legitimate card, saying, well, you should be in power. We will be in power. Get on the driver's seat. Be around the table of the minister's table. That's going to be his message. And, we'll see if it works.
So I wonder, though, and I called out when I heard the interview, we're going to play this back just after the 5:30 news that he did with Maya Johnson today. This idea of not wanting to wade into Quebec politics, right? He doesn't want to talk about Bill 96, Bill 21. He doesn't want to talk about the immigration battle, et cetera, et cetera. That list goes on and on. Is this the approach that wins you votes in Quebec if you're going out to the regions, by simply saying, we don't want to get involved, it's a provincial issue, and you work it out?
Well, the problem is that he's already involved, unless he changes position without telling anyone. In the Conservative leadership race, the question was, would the Conservative government ask the Supreme Court to invalidate Quebec's use of the notwithstanding clause, and thus bringing both Bill 21 and Bill 96 to a possible shredding by the courts. And his position then was that he would ask the court to declare the notwithstanding clause not to be used preventively, which is established precedent. He would ask the court to reverse that. But since then, he said that he could use the notwithstanding clause to reintroduce some criminal code amendments that the Harper government had brought in and that the Supreme Court had reversed. And so the only way to bring them back would be to use the notwithstanding clause preventively. And so we're in an uncertain terrain on that particular issue. He cannot stay between on the fence on this issue until the election. It's going to become too uneasy for him to do that.
So you have to develop a position now, which people will say, well, why didn't you have this position a year ago or 2 years ago? And suddenly it's become the position because now he wants to run for prime minister?
That's why it's so tough.
So how do you, so you ran a party. What do you do in a situation like that?
Well, he shouldn't have taken that position in the first place, because the position of Scheer and O'Toole had been, this is a provincial issue. We don't want to wade into it, even though we disagree with some of these policies. We think the National Assembly has to stand with its position. He should have stayed there. He moved because Charest was more forceful against that. So he thought that he didn't need anything to win. He would have won anyway. And now, how does he come back on this? He has to walk on the paint. There's no other way.
Okay. Do you think, by the way, I'll just ask you as a betting man, if you will, given what's going on, given I think the recent polls, Jean-Francois, show pretty close between the Conservatives and the Liberals, at least in Quebec, at least now. Do you think they have a shot in Mount Royal? It'd be the first time in 36 years if they were to win it.
I think they do, because given the composition of the riding with a very strong Jewish component, he's been unimpeachable in his support of Israel. You can debate that. Should he have done that? But that he has been crystal clear. So if you have a pro-Israel position and all that, he didn't have to cater to the Muslim vote. The Muslim vote is NDP or Liberal. That's why the Liberal have so much problems with defining a position on the Middle East. But he put all his marbles on Israel, the pro-Jewish voice. So even Anthony Housefather has shown clear signals that he was ill at ease with the position of the Trudeau government on these issues. So there is softness in the Jewish vote. So how soft is it? Can they flip to the Conservatives? He's right to try.
Okay. Last thing I want to bring up, and I know we've talked about Marc Miller and this ongoing battle between Marc Miller and François Legault. More recently, I guess Marc Miller calling out the Premier even more, saying, and I'm quoting, he makes unfair and unreasonable amalgamations about immigrants, and then added, and invents his figures and he invents causality. So what's your take on that?
Well, the figures that Legault uses is the Statistics Canada's figure, which is not a Quebec unit, as you know. Now, Miller says he has other ways of counting people, but for now, we can't see them. So let's wait and see. Now, in terms of what I find really interesting in Miller's position is that Legault says it's not because of immigrants, it's because of Ottawa's immigration policy. And then Miller says, stop blaming immigrants. And then Legault said, no, I'm not blaming immigrants, I'm blaming you. And Miller said, stop blaming immigrants. So I think he's doing this on purpose. And also, when asked, if you don't agree that 100% of the new demand for housing comes from 500,000 newcomers in Quebec, what is the proportion, do you think, that flows from that? The question was asked to Miller. Miller said, I don't know. Okay, so Legault does a mathematical demonstration that you can criticize, but he has figures, and Miller only has opinions.
Okay, and that's where we will leave it. I thank you, Jean-Francois. We'll talk again later in the week.
No, I don't think so.
We won't talk again later in the week. Oh, right, you're
not
off
that
now,
I
right?
want to, but
of
it's
course.
not usual for us to do that.
It would be. So you're gone now for the summer, right?
Right. So
okay.
I guess we may speak again in the fall, and I wish you the best summer you can have, and a very good Fête Nationale.
As I do you, and maybe between now and then we can actually get together, have a beer or a non-alcoholic beverage of some kind.
That it will be a with alcohol beverage.
Excellent, I'm in. All right.
All right.
We'll talk soon. Thank you.
Sure.
All
Thank
the
you
best
so
to
much.
you
Bye-bye.
as well.